All right. Hello, everyone. This is the Eline Podcast, and I am Mark Rose, your host. And today we have Alexandrea Johnson, an
Yes.
amazing artist that I love. I got to work with personally, which was so cool. Alex does so many different things, like between like painting, therapeutic photography, just everything. But we were chit-chatting a little bit before we just started the interview, but
Yes.
we were chit-chatting, so I was like, okay, let's get started seriously before we just finish the conversation.
Before we forget to record it.
Yeah. So, Alex, can you just give us like a brief summary of who you are, what you do, what you're about, all that?
Okay, let's see. Brief summary. Okay. I am a therapeutic photographer here in Augusta, Georgia. This is my third time living here. So I've actually been here like over the course of like 17 years, like a bunch of times. I'm a local artist and I had two recent shows that, let's see, focus was therapeutic photography and human soups, but we'll talk more about that, I know.
Mhm.
And overall, when I say therapeutic photography and what that is, was I was a trauma therapist and I was working towards being an art therapist. And I saw that the two worlds, as much as they could help each other with licensing, you get super limited and blocked in like what you can do and like conversationally where you can go. And when I moved down to Georgia this last time, I decided I was going to merge the two and I was going to see what I could do here in Georgia. And in the process, I met amazing people like you. And I was able to create art in the process of trying to build this foundation of therapeutic photography. And in the process, all of it kind of came together. And now it's actually a functioning business and studio here in Georgia. So
Yes. And what's the name? Love Ali Studios?
yes, Love Alley Studios. It's above Undertone Salon over on over by 6th Street in Broad. It's like the Oddity Museum's across the street. I like to say we're like just across the tracks kind of vibe. Like, yeah. So, and we're actually across 600 Broad, which is where 4P Studios does a lot of their local art shows as well. So, and we had one of our shows there.
Yes. Because that was at the last show, right?
The last show, yeah, the Human Soup Show.
Yeah, I was able to make it, and then I remember you pointed over to where the location
Yeah.
now, and I was so excited. I even took a picture of it like from the inside, so I'm very excited. I'll be there. The team will be there. Make sure that
Yes.
we support and chat with you about that. I'm very excited to see what you have in store. Like following you the last few years and getting to know you, seeing you online and what you're about. I love how brave you are, how confident you are in terms of like your self-expression, your art, like everything that you have going on, being yourself. And I just want to give you your flowers now because you deserve them. You're a great artist. And actually, okay, so behind you, whoever's watching the video besides just the audio.
Or two pieces behind, yeah.
No, before we started, I was just like, what is this behind you? What is this art piece? I asked, Alex, did she
Yeah.
create this? And yes, she has a lot of involvement in creating this, and I love it.
Thank
I
you.
don't even know how to describe it. I just want to stare at it.
It has like an energy, right? Like a movement. Like we were talking about feelings too and like emotion or dreams, and we're doing all of a sudden just kind of kept going. And then when we were finally done, I was like, I think I need to keep this. Like I need to have this.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's beautiful. I had to point that out.
thank you.
And before we get like a little bit further, so all right, so I want to try something. So can you give us two things that like facts that we don't know about you that no one may have never like known about you?
Oh God, I'm such an open book, chatty Cathy. Let's see. Two things not known about me.
It can be from when you were 5 years old. It can be from whenever, just so we can learn something new about you. Like what is something? Yeah.
Like an interesting kind of facts sort of thing. Like, I always I don't tell people this, but I'm trying to think of something that nobody knows. Damn. I know. I'm like, why is this so complicated?
No, I'm the same way. It's funny I'm asking you this, but if someone asked me the same thing, I would be like, Wow.
I have a very interesting family dynamic. I am adopted, but I'm not adopted in the technical sense. My stepdad adopted me, and I was raised by Italians and Irish, but I'm not Italian or Irish. I learned that through my ancestry. So I have my maiden name's Italian, and I make bomb pasta. But like I do, I make some serious. I take it very seriously, and then I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not like Italian or Irish.
I love pasta.
Yeah. Oh my God, so good. And then let's see. I have like depending on who you talk to, you would hear how many like siblings I have because I went from being I had a biological younger sister who is the inspiration for a lot of my art. And then my mother remarried. So my stepdad adopted me and he had kids from a previous, we say like previous life, previous marriage. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up with all these older step siblings. And then my sister passed. And then so I went from being the oldest, the middle, then became the youngest. And now with like life happenings and like post-world protests and things like that, some seas have parted. And now it's more of like, I'm the only child, or I'll say I had a little sister who passed away. So like, I have this very interesting, complex family dynamic and understanding. And then, you know, if anyone were to ask, you would think I was Italian, but
oh wow.
Yeah, so that's like a weird thing that like people don't get because it's not something that I could all put together in one thing or would have any reason. Yeah. But like I have this very like, and I don't actually actively talk to any too many of my family members anymore. I would love to, and I know they keep track of social media and things like that, but just people just grew apart. Yeah. And yeah, it's so like I have this, so Augusta has honestly, I've kind of built a family here with living here 3 times. A lot of the humans in my art are people that I knew when I had a photography business, Phoenix Day Photography. So if anyone years ago, 14 years ago, even if they ever heard Phoenix Day Photography, that was me. And that was all like weddings and portraiture and senior portraits. Like I would have done your senior portrait. Like I would take people out in fields and doing all that stuff that people typically did. And then it evolved. And so like now it's like I say, it's like Augusta's become my family, and it's cool because it's all like artists and things like that. Like my home is full of art from local artists that honestly are the people I call now if we need something for my kids or things like that. So yeah, I have a very cool blended eclectic family through Augusta, which I never would have actually expected.
Right. So originally, where are you from?
I grew up in Exeter, Rhode Island, which at the time seems really like cool, woodsy, eclectic. But since I've moved away, I realized I grew up in the smallest state in one of the smallest towns.
Right.
We had a pretty good population, but it was also relatively conservative. So like we had to leave Exeter to go to Providence to go like be around art. But Providence, Rhode Island is one of like the most amazing art places in the world. Rhode Island School of Design's there. And I kind of always thought I would go there. And maybe when I'm older, I'm going to be like that 76-year-old like college student going back to get like my master's in like art just to be like, I proved something. Right. But yeah.
I did it.
I'm going to be that cute old, I'm sure I'll be that cute old lady.
But I made it do what it do.
Like I did it, guys. My kids will be like looking at me like, Mom. Oh yeah, I got a bunch of kids.
Yeah, you do.
I have a lot of kids. They love you, by the way. Oh my gosh.
Your kids.
Olive talks about you all the time.
Oh, no, awesome. Yeah, every time like we meet at an event or somewhere, we're always talking, and I love we talk a lot, and the conversation is so natural. I love them so much.
Yep, they're cool. They're like little artist beings in the making, and it's so funny because it's so natural to them. Whereas for me, I'm like, I'm doing this, and they're like, Mom, like, why are you trying so hard? I'm like, okay.
I would love like if you all had like a reality show just to see the dynamics of the house. I feel like it would be.
A few people have said that to us, and I'm just like,
it would be so interesting. I would watch it because all of the personalities, but I love it. I love everything about.
It would be entertaining with the art in the background. Like you can't always you can't see it, but you've seen it. Like the therapeutic show, the therapeutic photography, everything was. I went into it years before saying I had the dream of having nude scene on the street. I wanted nudes to be acceptable where you could see them on the street. And I remember the moment I saw somebody else's show in Providence and I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. Like one day. And then came to Georgia and I realized when the show was coming down, I went outside and I could see, and the way the light hit, I was like, I have all these implied nudes, 22 implied nudes. All these people were naked during their sessions, but like all visible to the streets of Augusta, which to me was like such a beautiful evolution of where this like city had when I first moved here 17 years ago. And I was like, oh goodness, this is a little bit more reserved than what I'm used to. And then going to seeing like, hey Augusta, like you had 22 beautiful stories from people sharing their body and vulnerabilities visible to the street. Whether they knew that or not when they did that, I don't know. But they did it and it stayed up the entire month. And the show was really, I think, pretty successful. Like I was pumped about it.
For sure. I loved it. And also
you were in it.
Yes, and I was in it.
You're in it. You were my manifestation piece.
Yeah, it was so cool. I loved it. And I loved just shooting with you, but seeing myself was like, OMG, it's just so cool seeing that. But no, I really enjoyed that show a lot and the art that you provided. And one thing I really love about your art is that there's a story behind like every single like piece, especially with the therapeutic photography or like what you did,
Yeah.
I feel like everyone has a story, but I feel like you bring that out
in
photography, and that's what I love. But also I want to ask you, so you did mention at one point that the whole thing with numbers. So pretty much all of the prices have numbers like 222, 111, 555, like manifestation numbers and angel numbers. So I believe you said your sister, who unfortunately, I'm sorry,
she passed. Yeah.
Part in that. So can you give us, a little?
Yeah, I'm good given. There's like a interesting backstory. After my sister passed away, there's another connection. In 99, she passed away from a form of an adult brain cancer. Came out of nowhere, and she passed away. It was like early morning after Thanksgiving. She was 10, I was 13. When I was 14, I threw myself into art as my form of therapy, because I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was a moody teenager who just lost their best friend, and my parents were obviously going through it as well. Art, I was like, I'm gonna become an art therapist. And I was like, one day that's like the goal. So fast forward. Before my sister passed away too, she was very connected to the number 22. She always said 22 is her favorite number because it was 2 times. And I was like, oh my God, genius. And I was more of like the dark sided one, like, 13 and like, 11 and like trying to be kind of edgy and mysterious. Okay. So fast forward, I get this opportunity that was not expected. There was like a shift in things and an opening, and I was asked if I could do an art show in February and of year 22. And I was like, oh my God, yes, let's do that. That would be amazing. Fast forward, we're like, okay, we need a reception date. And the date that came available was the 22nd. So we're like, and then it was a Tuesday. So we're like, this is amazing. And again, this was something I dreamed about as a kid, wanted, wished for. And the whole time we're doing these pieces and I'm told 15 to 20 pieces if you can do this. And I don't know, Daniel, my partner, he can tell you the same thing. Like I kept coming back on 22 pieces. I would eliminate some. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, where did this one come from? And like, but then I don't even know how it worked. I hung 2 different shows of 2 completely different amounts of pieces, and they both worked separately, but the 22 pieces is where it landed. So on Tuesday, February 22nd of 2022, I hung 22 pieces up, or we had 22 piece art show reception in this like full circle life moment for me of almost like healing, because when my sister died, it was like I had set out with the intention of I will be okay if I can get to this goal. And somehow I really do feel like I feel like something happened when having that reception and having all these people together and seeing this vision of not only was it therapeutic art, a concept that nobody'd ever really even heard about. And I even remember having those conversations with my friends, and they're like, what if you mix the two together? And like, I hear about this thing called therapeutic photography, but it was something different. It wasn't the idea of getting in front of the camera and using the camera as a tool to almost like a mirror to reflect back on your emotions. So like I was just playing with the idea and evolving into something else. But yeah, it was this very cool, like full circle thing. And I feel like I feel like when I took that show down, I was able to kind of let go of that teenager part of myself and be like, we did it. We did it. Like, yeah. And it was cool because it was 22 years after, and it was also 22 years after my sister had passed away. So like, that's the other thing that's so trippy.
I did not know.
Yeah. And so it happened very organically. It wasn't like this thing that felt, it wasn't like overly scheduled in any way. It was like, hey, can you do favor? Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'll do a freaking art show. I was more stoked about getting a solo art show, never mind the fact everything else. So when everything else kind of happens, and then when it was all done and it was something that I had envisioned, I was like, I feel guided. I felt guided and supported. And that's where the numbers come in. And same for the pricing. I think about the stories that people share with me. And I think of it in terms of energy. And if someone is sharing this energy with me and I'm putting this energy into this art and all of that, it's when someone brings this into their home, I want them to value it in that level. Like I want them to understand like all the things had to line up right for this to happen. We know being down here, especially like nudity is a bit more frowned upon. So being able to explore that in a creative way was a gift in itself. And most of the people were people coming from a place of exploring and wanting to get to know themselves. And they trusted me, even though it was just based on like social media presence, minimal conversation through like Facebook Messenger, and just overall like connecting with the vibe in the space. Because as much as I preach all the time, because I teach, I've taught erotica and boudoir and things like that, I always teach have a plan, go lead with a plan, go through the plan. When you're doing therapeutic session, it's almost like, I don't want to sound cliche, like in an opening of a flower or peeling back like an artichoke. And you're trying to get to like the artichoke part. I feel like we can like get this reference. And like, you don't know at what point, like it's going to be the good spots or if you're going to have any bad spots and you're going to stop there and all that. So it's just sort of that concept of like, some people get into a flow and at the end of it, they're like, I want to do, well, you were like voguing. This was the wall, by the way, that we shot on.
Oh, it is.
Isn't that crazy? Oh, yeah, we shot, like, that's most of that show was shot in this bedroom when we were in the middle of renovations.
Oh, you painted the walls, the colors are different.
Yeah, they're like a eggplant color now. I can't stick with one color. I'm just like, I think that, I swear, that's like how we joke is we've had such a long relationship being together 17 years is because we change everything else around us.
There we go.
That's the secret to a lasting relationship, guys. Change your wall colors, get new couches.
I'll keep that in mind.
But yeah, so numbers, all of it kind of just felt right. And
yeah, I feel like everything happens for a reason sometimes.
Yeah.
Whenever you give it the energy, but just I think it's so beautiful how it all happened. The numbers, from your sister, the 22 years, and just it was a bomb event. I'm so proud of you. Like it was a bomb event.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it was really fun. And it was cool because the next show when we had to switch, it was very quick. It was, we were able to book the second show in the same location, which was cool because we had all this really great momentum and all of that. We put the show up, and this is when we were going to meet last time and do this. We got the call that we had to take the show down because the building got sold.
That's why.
That was the other thing that happened that night. So the first
okay.
Yeah, that was, so I was like, there's so much happening. I was like, so that's why I was like, Mark, this is not a good time. Like we had to go take the show down. But what was cool was I had said I would love to have a show at 600 Broad. That would be amazing. And then all of a sudden 4P Studios swoops in. And she's amazing. Gina was just like, So they're going to let us do a pop-up show at the end of the month, and we're going to do it at 600 Broad. And I had just lined up that we were going to be opening the studio across the street. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, I literally can be like, hey, so when this show comes down right across the street, we're going to start doing this as a regular thing. This is no longer going to just be a show. This is what we're going to do for business practice. Right. So, and that's what we're doing now.
And that's what happened. And that show was, I loved it. I love the colors. I love the art.
Thank you. The flowers,
yeah, you gave I thought it was so sweet. You gave everyone like a flower, like a rose. I think you mostly had, well, you had different flowers.
Yeah, I had a whole, so we ended up getting flowers not donated, oh my God, not donated. That's not the right word. She's gonna hate me. I'm like, I should get my phone out so I have the correct contact. I have this amazing friend whose name I cannot remember, but I will send it to you, who helped us with flowers. She's like the flower lady. I am so bad that I don't remember this at this moment. But she helped us get a bunch of flowers for us, because I had this vision of, I wanted it to feel like when you walked into the room, you were in your own human soup session as best I could, the best I could. Obviously limited in being a pop-up show and only having like 3 hours to like put everything and do all the stuff. But we wanted to smell like flowers and smell like essential oils, and be able to be very tactile, like all the art you could go up and touch. And like, we're raised to be told don't touch art, but there's something, everything can be art if you take the time to analyze it and look at the beauty of creating it.
Yeah, so like a piece when you have like, I guess, cotton or clouds or something.
Yeah,
and I was touching it, and I loved how you're like, touch it, it's okay, just
touch it.
Fine.
Worst case I have to hot glue it back on.
Like not to touch it. So I think sometimes when you go to like an art show or somewhere, you're like, okay, I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah, like don't go to the Met and touch things and be like, oh yeah, Alex said like this is fine. Don't do that. Don't go to the Met and do that. But
I'm gonna speak with the artist, or the artist lets me know. Like, I'm not gonna touch it unless the artist says it. And you said, okay, you can touch it. So I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
And that's the other thing, is we print on glass, or so we print most of our work on glass so that it has that very fragile, reflective quality of it. So when you move it, you have to be fragile, but it's also very lightweight. And it's kind of also to be like feelings, the concept of feelings and reflective and all that. But then you can touch it. You can do all things, and then just put some Windex on it and wipe it down, and you don't have to frame anything. So that's the other thing that's like really like, everything is like intentional all the way down to the printing and being able to touch it and seeing yourself in the image. That's the other thing. Like, you have to it slows you down. That's the other part. I like that. So.
Yeah, no, I love it. So like, when did you first decided that, hey, I'm like, of course, into art, but I'm into like this type of photography?
Into photography?
Yeah.
I think I was around it. It's really interesting because in part of my learning more about my past situation, I learned that my biological father used to take a lot of photos. So I think it was when I was little, I was always around the camera. And then my adoptive stepfather, he's a fantastic photographer, and he was always taking pictures of people. So I was always around it. And the first time I realized that this might be a problem is when I got in trouble for stealing his film camera when I was like 11. And I just was taking it out into the woods. I was putting it back, but like he was going and taking his film prints to Walmart and printing them. And there would be like the random pictures of like my little sister, or like ladybugs, or my dog running around, like all the things that were around me that I could see. And I was trying to capture it in my own way. So like he was going and he's like, why am I going through film? This is getting very expensive. And then when he put it all together, I got into a little bit of trouble. But then he got me my own camera. So like, and my Nana was, she was always dressing up and taking photos of us too. She was very much, I actually didn't realize this until now, like not now, but more recently, that she was a huge advocate in like the LGBTQ plus community, but back in like the 50s and 60s and 70s. Like,
that's
yeah.
for that time era.
Yeah, she was, my Nana was a bad bitch. I didn't like,
Yes.
we didn't like, we don't talk about it. Like they'd be like, oh, we don't talk about Bruno. Like we all talk about things that Nana did that like society as a whole are like very proud of, but then she had a whole cool side where I was like, yeah. So she would have been so proud of all this work that like, but she used to take photos of us, so of my sister and I. So like I think I was just kind of always around it. And then whenever my parents were like, oh, we don't want Alex to become a thief, and they got me my own camera, we don't want her to have a life of crime. They then I started I started getting to take photos. And I remember when I was like a senior in high school, went to go to New York, and I took all black and white film, and I was taking pictures of just random people on the street. And I actually still have the portfolio of prints.
Really?
Yeah, and I was actually really drawn to like taking photos of those who like looked like they were more living on the streets than the actual like people of New York. We were supposed to take pictures of architecture and all of that, and you know, I kind of listened. Like there were buildings in the background, but like, but I was more drawn to the uniqueness of the humans that were just different from each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that was one of those moments. And then what was interesting, I kept getting this pull to Georgia because my best friend came, two of my best friends, like my only best friends actually, my art best friend and my one other friend who had nothing to do with art, both came to school here in Georgia from Rhode Island. And I remember they both told me at separate times they were coming down here. And I was like, I don't really understand. Why are you going to Georgia? And now I'm the only one who's here. I came on completely different terms, like later on, but yeah, it was like, I feel like all of it was just supposed to like come together in this very, isn't it strange? Like I really am like, I'm so it all lines up. Numbers, all of it.
I love that. No, I feel like we can go on and on. That's what I love about you, because you have so many layers of your life, and it's like I want to have like a big like you could have like a documentary. I feel like already in your life.
I need somebody to read me. I need like
way. Like no, you're very. I love you. No, I love you a lot.
I appreciate it. No, I actually appreciate it. I didn't realize like growing up, it was you're just trying to survive. You don't really like, and I didn't like, you're just trying to like do the best you can. Everyone around you, you trust, you believe. And I think a lot of people are doing the best they could as well. And then now I'm like, I realize everyone's incredibly human. The thing is, if people don't address the pain, it affects them in ways that make them to hurt other humans. And I think the way I was brought up, some people unintentionally, accidentally hurt me. It's not intentionally, but it caused me to be the way I am and react the way I am. And so now everything in my mind is like, if people could just see the humanness in each other, they can work past their stuff, and then they won't accidentally, unintentionally hurt the people they love because they're deflecting or projecting or.
Oh, you just said a lot. I don't know if you understand, but you really just said something so powerful within the last 20 seconds of you talking. You literally said a lot.
I do. That's how I do. I feel that way. Like I really, because like I do. I have my whole family growing. Like when I say I'm not connected to them, like I think they often think that I'm angry, and I'm not angry. I'm actually like in this very much state of like, life was really hard for a lot of people for a very long time, and I don't know why. I'm not going to try to jump into that because it wasn't mine. It wasn't my life to like. I just know that I see it in a lot of other people too, experiencing that stuff, and they didn't have the opportunity to go to school and put themselves in debt too, but like go to school for trauma counseling. And I did that. I literally went for school for that, only to understand why were people reacting the way they were around me when I was feeling the way I was feeling. And so I answered my own why, but in the process learned to heal, forgive, all of that. But then I also, the system sucked, and I was not going to be a part of it. And that's why I wanted to do more. I was going to really do art therapy. So, but yeah, I really do believe that people, they don't like to look at their humanness, and we all have to be little robots and keep operating and be part of the system. And in that, we're just accidentally hurting each other. Like,
yes, you're speaking. So,
so yeah.
some real bleep, some real stuff. I guess I can't say right now, but yes, it's I agree. I
Oh
agree.
yeah, sorry. I probably said the bad word at some point
No,
before.
you're
Sorry.
fine. No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine. But no, no, everything that you just said, I can resonate with as like a being, and I think the same thing. I feel like we all live in survival mode as kids,
Hmm.
like, and sometimes growing up, I'm like, you know what, you can't really. It's hard to blame someone, even your parents, because we all just go through this whole cycle of being fucked over pretty much.
Yeah.
Eventually, and it's kind of like, and then some people are better at like some of us are better in terms of like being in tune with ourselves or putting in the work to try and figure it out. And then some, don't. And,
Yeah.
and that's just the unfortunate cycle. Like, a lot of us, we just don't know how to do that. And some of us do know how to like dig deep inside and try and find those traumas, those triggers, and then we just hurt each other because we're hurt people. That's what it is. That's the saying, right? Hurt
Yeah.
people hurt people.
Hurt people, and it's not always intentional. Sometimes it is. Sometimes we're like, screw
Yeah.
that guy, like I'm hurting, he needs to learn because I learned. Like that's like, by the way, worst parenting mentality ever. Oh, I struggled, you struggle. No, that's not smart. Like not good. But like we have more information too than like our parents had, or like the people around them had. Like they had access to the information based on the people that were around them and the access to education and knowledge and all of that. And we already got, it's a whole other conversation if we want to talk about systems and separation, access to information and all of that. And it's a whole lot of BS. And it goes on and on and on and on. I even saw that with growing up, with moving around with my parents in the military, and like then divorcing and single motherhood to married right. I put that in air quotes because, people have different mentalities of what that is. Wonderful man, good life, but they're not married anymore. so like it is what it is. But like it's so interesting because it's just like everyone wants to be disconnected because nobody wants to be feeling what they're feeling, but we're all so connected that we honestly could just like, if we slowed down.
Yeah.
But we can't, because we're part of a society that says you can't because it's more expensive and you got to go faster and we got to do more of this, and then it's also no less of this and make this smaller, and then it's all of a sudden
hurting us. It just sucks, and that's the issue. It just hurts us because it's like we're going at a fast pace to where people have to like to feel like, hey, I have to work hard, I have to do this, and people don't really have time to process or think about anything or even sit with themselves and their emotions. Like sometimes I'm like doing a lot, and I'm like, hey, you need to chill so you can process what you have going on mentally, your emotions.
Even with healing, like people were in this active state of healing, and we're trying to make ourselves feel better because we don't want to feel how we felt, because the pandemic caused a lot of reflecting. Like we all were like, oh my God, I'm stuck with myself and the people around me. And like, it got real with everybody. So like now everyone's in this state of healing because we all had to see all of our flaws. And now we're like, well, that can also become a problem. Like if you're constantly go with, I got to feel better, you're not letting yourself rest, process, heal. And heal is not, to me, healing isn't a state of feeling better or anything like that. It's all of a sudden just not noticing what once was a thing. Like it's like when the Band-Aid falls off and then you look and you're like, oh, I hadn't even thought about this like cut that I had the other day. Like to me, that's being healed, where we're always like, we're healing. If you're healing, you're still working. Like if you're in that state of like, I'm constantly healing. So it's this we've somehow made it into a system of business of healing, which is also messed up. And my biggest struggle with opening a studio, because I'm like, I don't want to be in the business of healing, but I also want to be in the business of giving people more options for how to heal, because many of us are doing all the things, and many of us are being like, I don't really feel that much better. And it's because the world is evolving, and the way we operate needs to evolve, and the way we need to create needs to evolve, and the way we need to release and relax needs to evolve. And if we all could just get on the same page and be like, hey, friend.
Yes.
Like we don't have to agree. We don't have to we don't even have to be on the same rhythm or wavelength or frequency. If you could just agree not to bump me, I won't bump you. Like if we want to like, but you know, you know,
it's just the way
we all
we,
do the best we can.
yeah, that's all we can do is do the best that we can, and just keep moving forward. But what
Being
inspired
okay with the pace that you're moving forward, because
right.
I will say the biggest thing with those shows, with not only getting the one, because you always get the one and then you're fearful, like, what will I have a second? Like, I got to write the month after. Like, so I don't know what's supposed to happen after that. But like that feeling of just like, I finally achieved it. I don't care that it took me 22 years anymore. When
Exactly.
I was in year 16, I was like, I don't think this is ever going to happen. Like, this is sucks. This is stressful. Like, I want to be an artist. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe, people don't want to see my work. No, I just wasn't around the right group or humans at that time to support it.
Okay, so let's talk about the new location.
Okay.
So, like, are you very excited about that? I know you said you're really like, I don't know if we talked about it earlier in this conversation or
I
before.
like I
Start.
like brushed over it because I
Yeah, yeah.
said where it's at. Yeah, I'm super pumped. I actually, when I moved back to Augusta, I heard about the salon and I was just like, who are these cool chicks? And it was across from the Oddity Museum, which at my time, like the time was like, this is really cool too. This is a new change and Augusta's offering something outside of normal and mainstream. So I was like, this is cool. I'm curious about this space. And they could even tell you, like, I went in there and I was like, hey, if you guys are renting upstairs, I don't even know if I would like what I would do up there, but just let me know because I feel like I'm supposed to be here. And then fast forward with the art show and then timing and then the studios, that space opened up above there. So it all worked out. But so there's the Undertone Salon, which is the hair salon, and they have like massage and they have like all the really cool, crazy colors and like fun fantasy hair stuff. Very creative. And I swear, every last one of those humans in that space has this very like comforting approach with their client base from my experience. So like I already felt good about that. I was like, I like these people saying my name more. Like I want them speaking about me because like they will understand what it is like that I like where I'm coming from. They're not gonna look at me and be like, oh, they're too extreme. These are all humans that have felt in some way like pushed out by mainstream world, and that's how they all came together in this really cool salon. And stylistically, if you go in that place, it looks like it's a walking photo set. Honestly, it's very cool. If you haven't been in there, you need to check it out. It's full of art. It's very, very cool. So I went there and I was like, I would love to be part of the space. All of a sudden I hear that there's this opening and went and checked it out. And the funny thing is I actually fell in love with the bathtub.
Um,
Yeah, and because of the human soups. So, we didn't talk about the human soups.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I'll explain what that is because it does make me sound like I'm like a weird, like witch
Yeah,
hunter, like
you did,
weird.
and yeah, I was gonna get into it at some point because I know people would be like,
What is a human soup?
"You
Yeah, and
want to eat humans as
yes,
soup?"
yes, very delicious. Yes. I actually love singing the Hocus Pocus song where it's like, "Come, little children." Yeah, and I having 4 kids, like they're like, "Mom, stop it! You're scary. Stop it." So back to human soups, delicious human soups. Yeah, I actually went and saw the space and I was looking at another space and I came back to the common area and I was like, I kind of just want to see the bathroom. And because I knew I wanted to offer something different. Like there's tons of boudoir photographers around here. It's very trendy. We do offer erotica and OnlyFans content, things like that. Because of the history of trauma work, I'm a little bit more sensitive in like the work and nudity. I'm comfortable with it. So like I can offer all of that in that space, but I was like, I need a standout thing. And I go into this bathroom and they have this big corner tub, like old school that probably 5 years ago they would have renovated, but now because the 90s are cool, like it's cool again. So it's this big corner tub that I can now stand on, like because I was using the tub at my house.
Yeah.
And I can do these sessions and now I can get them out of my home, which is nice because during the pandemic, I had to slow down shooting because of shooting in my home. So the human soups are, and it has a shower. So which are fun for the adult play therapy sessions, which is basically couples boudoir mixed with couples therapy techniques and activities while in a setting that with the camera, it'll look really cute, people giggling in their underwear playing with each other. Like they'll be, so it's like playful adult, like it's just playfulness. And then there's a shower. So if people want to get steamy, they can get steamy because those look really pretty. Those pictures. But yeah, I fell in love with this tub. The human soups are basically, I call them, it's like a therapeutic broth. They're all built around the person. I ask people about like, what's the vibe that you're trying, the feelings, the healing, what are you working through right now? Where are you in your headspace? What's your intention? So some people, they're like, I've been really depressed. I'll be like, let's make you a happy soup. And we'll go into it with a more celebratory vibe. Or someone's like, I'm feeling really burnt out. And I'm like, let's do a restful soup. And I'll do things that are more based on like lavender and menthol and that kind of like healing, rejuvenating thing. And then I'll use the same thing with like color theory. So we know that colors are connected to emotions and feelings. So what we'll do is we have lights surrounding at our house right now, but I'm going to set up it over there. But we also use the colors in the flower petals. We will do a bath bomb, or I have powders and oils that I'll put in that will make the colors go where we want them to go. And everything I buy is stuff that I would use on myself or my kids. So if I want to do it or my kids want to do it, like it all kind of works out really beautifully. And then I want people to get out of it and be like, oh my God, that was like a spa treatment. That was very strange. And all they did is literally they come in, they have access to the wardrobe because people don't know how to dress for these things. Like, and I don't want people going to spend like $50 on lingerie when I'm going to make them submerge in like, purple water. And so they go and they can go in and we talk about feelings, intentions, all that. And then either I try to have stuff in place beforehand, but I have a whole wall of sparkles and bath bombs and powders right now in the bathroom. So we can build the soup. So someone can say, if they have like I hate orange, I don't like orange. One, I'm going to explore that with the person, but also I'll not put that in because I make sure that nothing is concrete because nobody is exactly as they start the day as, like I have this belief in that if you're looking at something in hindsight, you're already a different person than you were back then. So you can't even like hold yourself to anything anymore because you already know better because that's why you're looking at it different. So like I can't go into soups with a concrete thing because someone might have this whole plan, feel celebratory, beautiful, and then they get into an argument with their boyfriend before they get there. And then all of a sudden I've got, $50 worth of flowers because I go buy all fresh flowers. For the space and to create it. And if I hate having to pop the heads off some of them, but sometimes I do that because they'll float. We send a lot of things back with clients if they want to, and they can recreate their soups for them if they would like. But the whole intention at the end of it is so when you shoot down and you look at this person laying in the water, and I'll have them pose in these very sensual, almost like Renaissance romantic poses, or really strong and edgy and bold, depending on the vibe we're going for, because it usually seems to be a balance between soft, sensual healing and bad bitch energy, and then maybe like some sort of celebratory, like we'll have like maternity or newborn babies with their mother in there, but we'll pose them in a way. I'm like posing for the camera. And so it's a real soft, and then you have all these beautiful flowers around them. And then on top of it, we'll have their bodies because they're in a tub. And because of the world of censorship, we get to get really fun and creative with that. So if you use botanical objects for censoring, you're okay with most forms of social media. If you use your hands, it can become implied as sexual. So we don't do that. So we've learned through creative censorship how to kind of play that. And then people can also push themselves in their own creative expression and body awareness and all of that by playing with their own forms of nudity or bodyscaping in that space. But at the end, you got this cool person squished up in this soup with all these fun little materials and organic materials and sparkle. So much sparkle. If people want sparkle, I will throw all the sparkle in there. So I fell in love with the bathtub. So I said I'm going to become a professional bather. And we just do healing soups. But that's one of our therapeutic sessions. And so it's like there's a human soup, then there's the therapeutic, which is more talk based, and then we only get the camera out once we feel ready, and then the play stuff, which is more about kind of getting in your body.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of your clients, people who come, they seem like they're ready for it, but they're very kind of anxious and nervous, like wants to process
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, so that's the biggest issue I run into is a lot of people will see the end products that ends up in these art shows or on social media, the more shock value stuff, the stuff that I use for advertising to get people talking and get them curious. Because that's my biggest thing is I want people curious, because if you're curious, then you'll inquire. Whereas if you're not curious, then what's the point? So if I do something a little more shocking, it gets attention, but then people are see it and they're like, oh, I could never do that. And the thing is, if they were to talk to that person who did that, that person probably would have said, like, I always thought that too. And it's weird because it's not like there's not like any grooming or anything like that. Like, hey, let's get you naked. People come and they're like, I feel like if I were to be able to get to the space of creating something like this, I would be in a really good headspace with my body. Or if I can create something that looks like something that Sandra Botticelli referenced. Like a lot of people like to bring up like Birth of Venus, but they don't realize they're bringing up Birth of Venus, like with the beautiful curvature of the woman and like those era type pieces. And they're referencing that, saying like I like they don't understand why we don't have art like that anymore. I'm like, well, let's make it. Like, let's make it. Let's do it. Like literally, what's the formula? There's this paint. There's an oil paint, and there's a man making people stand there for a while, and he's adding cherubs and stuff. But we can do that with a camera. We can do that with Photoshop. We can do that with Lightroom. We can do that with flowers. We can do that with tapestry. We can do that with knowing how to manipulate our camera so that we can capture movement how we want it to be captured. And so it's like, why are we not just doing this ourselves? So now, people come into it with this, I wish I could. I almost feel like a little genie in some way, like, because they're like, there is that, I wish I could, or if I was that confident, I would love to. And that's the thing is I'll ask people what their goals are. And they're usually like, I would love to one day look like, and then they usually reference some art piece or a model, or sometimes a photo that they saw of their mother, like way back in the day when their mom was fine or something, like, and that's how they reference it. And I'm like, well, your mom's still fine, but like, just be clear, your mom is still fine. I don't even need to see her. Well, she's fine. But like, yeah, like that's good. Like that's goals. Let's get there. And so like, even when we did your photos, you had this reference of the laughing in that, almost like that cover girl giggle reference. And when we created that moment with you, it's still one of my favorite photos. And people look at that shot still and they're like, I want to feel what he's feeling. And I'm like, don't we all? And it's because you had this, like, you like leaned into what you were wanting to feel. Do you know what shot I'm talking about? And
Yeah,
so you had
when I had like that little
the white like lingerie top piece, like
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
And you just like, you gave me this cover girl laugh. But and it's like, even for you, if you were just like having a playful exercise, like everyone looking at that shot sees it and they see this person like releasing and relaxing and enjoying themselves in this moment. So like what you actually did by participating in the creation of that art is you gave therapy to other people. You let them feel something and have that, like, I can have, and I'm like, yeah, I can teach you to do that. Like, it's really kind of fun and silly. And then I explained to them what we did. And it's like, I tell them how you put on that, like that bridal piece that I'd had. And like, you had it in your head and we just like, this is what we do, put your shoulders and you just start laughing. Like you just giggle and think about something so stupid. And all of a sudden it's captured. And then you're like, your brain remembers the image and it does a nice little connection. So even now for you, you're gonna be like, well, I hadn't been thinking about that shot, but now like you're probably a little bit curious about the shot.
Yes, now I'm going to like.
I'll send it to you, and it's one of those, you have the most beautiful collarbones in it. Oh my god!
Oh, thank you. No, I love your direction because literally, I was telling Olive when we last spoke that like, because like Olive was talking about the shoot. Olive really likes the shot from like the manifestation event, the piece that and so we started talking about that day, and I was like, yeah, I was like, your mom really like doesn't even understand how much she like inspired me and like helps me grow and like with therapy, because I feel like back then I was like in a weird odd stage even with self-love back then, and a lot of people didn't even know that. And I felt like from that day shooting with you and Daniel, like I just came out more powerful, and that's why like I'm always going to ride for you all, because it's like
I
you're
love
doing
you.
it's therapy, love you too, Like literally what you're doing is therapy and it's healing, and hearing that is just so beautiful. But yeah, that's why I have to give you your flowers, because you're doing it. And I will always, like, anytime someone mentions, like, like a lot of people are like, hey, I want to do a shoot that just makes me feel this, like what you said, like the bad bitch, or like,
Yeah, like you want to feel
this
something.
or that. Yeah. And you're the one person that always comes to my mind. Like, there's this lady I work with sometimes, and she's like a mom, middle age, and just
Yeah.
beautiful, gorgeous. And she was like, I would like to do a shoot or something like that. And I was like, I know the right person, so we're gonna set that up, because
Yes, please do.
that example is just knowing that, like, I know someone who can heal through, like, art and photography, and it just makes me so happy, especially as an artist.
Yay, that makes me so happy. Yeah, and like the cool part I think is at the end of the day, if somebody decides they want to like invest in like printing it, they're making something concrete that is like we still, like when we find old vintage photos and art, we sit and we appreciate it. And we don't create stuff like that anymore. Everything's so digital. Everyone's like, NFTs, but like there's still something about having,
Right.
holding and passing it down now. And it's like we'll look at our grandparents' photos and we're like, ooh, look at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Where'd that come from? That came from them printing and capturing and holding on to something and saving it. And if we don't do that, we're not going to have that.
Like on the phone, I don't want something that like could possibly get lost. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. Something like these sites could shut down one day. Our phones
Yep.
get picked up, go crazy. You never know. And then we
Yeah.
can never, like, not have anything that we have saved on our phones ever, So I like,
yeah. And it's like makes you part of history. Like make yourself concrete, print yourself, literally make yourself into matter, like subject matter. And like, whatever happens, but who knows, maybe in 100 years, somebody will come across it and be like,
right.
Did you know 100 years they like had purple hair and they did this and like, yeah, they shaved their faces. Who knows what's going to be said, but like, honestly, at that point, like we're all probably just going to be like floating around and just like, I don't know, like over it. But yeah, there's just something like every step along the way, there's an opportunity to feel either like elevated or to heal yourself or to just feel seen. And like, I think that's the biggest thing also with there's so much content everywhere all the time. Like we like get on social media to dissociate, and we do that as a form of therapy. And we're bringing in constant content. So there's a part of that is also like, why don't you make yourself as part of the content, be part of the change you want to see, put yourself out there as the influence that you want to see in the change and the things moving forward. Like, we talk about as a society, like how we're so medication driven. And so often a lot of people I work with have a history of addiction, and it all comes back to pain and trauma, is where it stems from. And it's like this whole thing that it's like, we don't need medication. We don't need to be encouraging medication all the time to be healing things that medication may have caused the problem to begin with. Right. And so it's like just having that added option of like, just learning about different things. That's the other thing is when we do the soups, everything that goes in the soup, we talk about it. Like we talk about like these essential oils are good for this, and this bath bomb is good for this, and these are who we get this from, and da-da-da. Oh yeah, I'm like a chatty Cathy.
I need a human soup therapy session now.
Come get broth.
Anyone who's listening to us right now, I don't know who's listening right now, who will be listening right now, who cannot who doesn't want to book a shoot with you right now.
It's so fun. And then there's a shower. So if you have to go out afterwards, you can get the sparkles off your body if you have any sparkles. And they don't have to have sparkles, but how many opportunities are you going to take a bath of sparkles and you don't have to clean it up? That's the other part. You don't have to clean it up. I clean it up.
Oh my God.
It's an experience. It's supposed to be an experience to make you feel something different than how you came in. And no matter what, it's going to be better. It just, it's just the intention step going into it. We follow it through, and then, at the end, you do feel better. At the very least, you're going to have softer skin. So
yeah, there we go.
At the very least, and you're going to leave with some petals and flowers and
healing. It's just, everything's just good for the soul.
And there's breathing exercises. Yeah. I just information dump because I want people to feel better. And then maybe there's a part of me that's I want them to be oh, that was so great. I want to come back next week. Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad bad about that, but that's not really the goal. The goal is honestly, I want people to be like, that worked, or that made me feel better, or I just wanted to do this. Like I go get a facial, like now let me go. Because the business across from me does facials. Rachel's amazing. Go get facials from her. So, but that's the thing is you can go get a facial and then go do a human soup. And then like, it's a whole spa day that you never even intended to have with therapy thrown in.
Yeah. So then when I visit, I feel like I'm going to have to take some videos, some pictures.
Yes.
It's a whole video. It's a whole experience we have to share.
You have to come see the kinky mannequin.
In our conversation right now. I think I'm going to have to do something totally different just for that whole experience.
Yes.
But okay, well, it's been lovely speaking with you as always. You know, I love you much. I love everything about you. Your art,
love you.
all of that. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to ask you a question. So, what inspires you to keep going?
First it was my sister because I felt like I had some unfinished business for her because her life got cut short. Because I did get super depressed for a long time there. And then I had kids. Honestly, and like I kept having kids. And now I'm in a new stage of how to keep going because I definitely went through a depressive era recently. And my kids, my oldest two, are at the age where my childhood started to kind of like unravel. So now I'm like, I gotta do right by them kind of thing. And like, I want them to see it's okay to not be okay, but that if they're not okay, it's going to be okay because we're here. Right. So like, that's kind of it, is being the person that I needed, but my family was there doing the best they could. And they, face masks or whatever, so I just want to be that. Like, that's what keeps me going. And then I get really amazing messages from people from time to time of seeing how being on my social media, like even just memes I'll share, it's reinforcing and it's nice. So
I'm thinking about, so what we talked about a little bit earlier in our conversation when we were talking about like, like the survival mode, the traumas, how we all kind of project that on each other. But what you said about, basically like your inner child, like being there, being the person you needed when you were younger, that honestly relates so well. And I think that's everything right there. I think it's like, we all just need to be who we needed to be when we were younger, and I feel like that could fix a lot. We're in a crazy world, but I love how you acknowledge that. I love how you heal. I love how you just crave the heal and want to be better, want to be happier, I feel like healing is really just about wanting to be happy, to like
choosing happiness as a priority, like making it a priority.
Yes, and that's what I love about that. Oh my gosh. But so we're gonna wrap that up. You're always welcomed into our space. We always love talking with you. We're excited for the next thing for you, which is your space. So when you have your next event, you already know we will be there.
Yes, I can't wait.
Looking forward to it as always. Of course, I'll be following you up as always. And so thank you everyone for listening to us at the Line Podcast. My name is Mark Rose, your host. And this is Alexandrea Johnson. And that is it. We wish you all the best. Be great. Keep creating and keep spreading good vibes. And we love you all. Thank you. Yay.